Oh, boys,
Dom,
I think that
come
was
on,
the
mate.
best one
That
yet.
was definitely the
wasn't it?
worst one.
Wait, Dom,
Oh,
you were
yeah,
like 3 seconds later.
I thought I did really well.
Dominic's internet connection is a real fucking problem.
I think there might be a slight delay on the video, and it's just...
Whatever happens here, whatever we conclude is the problem, it's going to be your fault, Dominic.
I know. Of course,
Yeah.
everything's
It has to
my
be.
fault. We get it.
It has to.
Anyway, guys,
I think that's the
RuneScape.
right way to be.
Greg used to play RuneScape.
So yeah, RuneScape was where it was at. I think now you brought back memories, Lawrence, when you said that you got married. I'm pretty sure I got married once as well. We had a little like ceremony, and then you type. Do you remember you could type? You had to find out what the sort of the keywords, the buzzwords that you typed before you typed words to make like your words wobbly or flashy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and also, do you want to know the most ridiculous? So, like, obviously, I started playing a little bit again, and I went on, and I used to play this little mini game in the game called Barbarian Assault, and I went in there, and I used to be part of the, like, geek clan for Barbarian Assault, and I went into, like, the new clan on the old RuneScape edition, and someone remembered me from 10 years ago. That was when I last played.
Way.
I am not kidding you. And I don't even have the same screen name. And he said, wait, are you Dom? You're the guy who always used to run around with a white scarf and talk about wives. You always used to hang out with that person
really
called
cool.
Olive Fairy.
They said they were a
So
girl.
weird. You guys got into these games. My cousin tried to hoax me into playing because she got really intrigued by it. But I could never get invested. Like, you just walk around collecting firewood and, like, killing people randomly.
Mate,
Did you play it?
I didn't get the point.
Oh,
How did you have a girlfriend? Did you get some of her loot?
Did they have like an Australian version where you had like tarantulas and like dangerous snakes also in the RuneScape?
Kangaroos.
Or was it just like
They actually, well, yeah. You could buy saddles for kangaroos and ride them around, slaying people with fishing rods.
oh, the beautiful TW3 stereotype going out there. So, guys, tell me what you've been up to this week, yeah?
What I've been up to, just a lot of self-isolation, building some houses.
On RuneScape?
Minecraft.
No, real
Minecraft.
houses. Real houses.
So, you are listening to TW3. We have a jam-packed show today. We'll be looking back at the last month, all the crazy madness, a few of our highlights. We'll also be looking at a few of the stories in slightly more depth we'll look into. And we will be, of course, bringing you some of the latest news trends. Finishing off with a further part to our John McAfee saga. We are looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Remember, if you have anything that you want to tweet or get into us, you can either email us at podcast@tw3media.co.uk, or, of course, you can catch us on the Twit box at TW3Media. So we'll be right back after this. Come on then, Lawrence, give me your crazy story this week. We're going to rattle it through these, and then we've got some special stuff in store for later.
I've got a very positive story, which is nice news. It's positive news, okay? So, there's a guy who became a new dad this week, had a baby. Lovely, great news. But then, as he did that, he lost his job to COVID-19, obviously, which is bad news, as we're all aware. However, he then won the lottery and won £2.4 million on the lottery just after that. So, obviously, he's got a new kid, lost his job, boom, £2.4 million on the lottery.
Nice.
Jesus, what a roller coaster.
I feel like you probably jumped into some of
Absolutely.
Nibs' good news this week, I must say. I did see Nibs' face sort of
shit,
slightly squint up at the camera as he like looked in with those evil little devil eyes.
You little bitch.
Like, you little sneaky ma.
Guys,
Sorry,
leave
dude.
the good news to me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was in the contract. No,
right, well-
good stuff until Nibs. Is
No, that's not part of the good news. That is excellent news, though. The guy probably deserves it. What a legend.
Yeah, he certainly
Yeah,
does.
hell
He
yeah,
certainly
man.
does.
What would you guys spend £2.4 million on?
Ooh, good question.
I'd spend a little bit on Dom.
Oh, cute.
Good
Oh.
question.
Oh, baby.
I'd get you a nicer background.
Yeah, is that the Halo background or Destiny or something?
I
can't
think
tell
it
which
is the
one it
Halo background, yeah. Of course, no. I mean, I had a meeting the other day. Quick side, I had a meeting the other day with a company for something I'm working on. And I go on the conference call, and it's two women there, and they're both got some funky background. with their Zoom. I mean, it just put me off. I'm already there, like, ready to do business. They've both got these backgrounds on. I mean, how much is that? It just puts you off. I mean, literally, you've got a situation now where business is conducted, where you're wearing no trousers, you've got a beer behind your computer screen, and you've got a Halo background. Stop the madness. Somebody stop the madness.
This is brilliant. Yeah, 2020 in full flow.
Some would say you're living your best life, to be fair.
So, anyway, 2.4 million. Go on then. What would you buy, Lawrence? Good question, Greg.
I remember, do you ever see that video where the news, this is the legit news, are going around asking people like what they'd spend the lottery winnings on, and they just talk to this guy and he seems really like educated and nice, and he's like, yeah, so I've been thinking about it, he's like, cocaine and hookers. I'm like, what?
I haven't seen that video.
Yeah, I've seen that one, it's so good. I wouldn't do that, but it just brought that to my mind. No, I'd probably just invest it and buy a few little luxuries and just hopefully make sure I've got enough to retire on, pretty much. That's the plan for me.
Let's be realistic. You would spend at least 10% on cocaine and hookers. I mean,
so true.
There's no denying it. I mean, okay, fine for our listeners. Like a little bit of discretion is advised, but I mean, let's be honest.
Nibs
You
is
would do
just
it.
being frank. I mean, Nibs, come on, mate. Besides new backgrounds for me, what would you spend 2.4 million on? I know, besides the 10% that we just spoke about.
That 10%.
Okay, so 10%'s already gone. I'd probably do the same as Lawrence. I'd definitely invest some. I'd buy a house and put the rest away for a rainy day. Maybe donate some to the COVID-19 bullshit.
Maybe.
Nice.
That's nice.
Maybe if it's a good day.
If there's any left.
Go on, Greg.
I would be straight down to PC World, even though they're all closed nowadays. To get top of the end gaming PC and like a VR. Like, what's the? I guess
the VR headset.
Oculus. Yeah,
Oculus
I've
have,
always
like, the
wanted
best one
one.
nowadays, isn't it?
I've still never tried it.
I've tried it. It's fucking amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. It's really good.
What is it with you guys and alternate realities?
Just because this one's shit, Nibs. Isn't it?
I mean, Nibs, why do you not want... I mean, to be fair, actually, there's a fair point. Is that a good question? Are people with VR headsets happier in quarantine?
Probably. I would be.
Because they have an alternative reality they can go to. I think I would buy a little sailboat. I'd slap TW3 Media on the side of it, and I'd sail around the world and take us on a world tour.
Oh, that's nice, but it's like our own little...
We'd go global.
Hamburg, isn't it? That's nice.
It's very nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Go global.
All right. Let's move on. Greg, what's your story this week?
So yeah, my story for this week, something that made me chuckle was a cracking headline, as always. Man accidentally ejects himself from fighter jet during supplies flight.
I saw this.
What the hell?
So reading into it, a surprise outing in a fighter jet unnerved one defence company executive so much he accidentally ejected himself while flying at over 320 miles per hour. The 64-year-old was startled during the takeoff, in which he lifted off his seat a bit due to sort of like G-force or something, I suppose. And he grabbed the eject lever while trying to steady himself. It gets worse because then the investigation that was conducted then afterwards to sort of see like what had gone wrong, like could we have done anything to prevent this mishap. They found that he had loose seat straps which had caused him to float up in the first place, and he also lost his helmet during the takeoff. The investigators found that the man had never expressed any interest in flying at all, and the flight had been a gift. The flight had been a gift from colleagues, which he felt he couldn't refuse.
Oh my god!
Poor guy.
Thankfully, the man had a soft landing in a field nearby and was unharmed. And the pilot, imagine, so obviously when you eject from a fighter jet, the canopy sort of flies off as well, so you can get out. And so the pilot managed to land the plane like fine with no canopy and whatever. So it's
That's pretty
it all
impressive.
ended. It all ended fairly well. Made me chuckle just imagining it. Anyway, imagine watching your friend. You say, "Oh, he's going to really enjoy this," and you're watching from afar. Your friend got this fighter jet and he's launched out of it.
Do you reckon he probably looked like Boris Johnson on the zip line when he got stuck up there? You can just imagine. Have anyone seen the video of Boris Johnson on a zip line where he's just waving the British flags? You can just imagine this guy just being like, everything being hung up, and he's just like gently floating down on his way down on this fighter jet.
Yeah.
How much damage do you reckon that causes? I mean, because obviously, presumably they've lost the canopy. I mean, these things cost an inordinate amount. So surely this is a lot of money that's just been catastrophically wasted.
They'll be insured for it, for sure. I mean, yeah, definitely.
What, for letting some civvy in?
It's an experience day.
The most surprising thing is the guy's still got his legs and hasn't broken any bones. Because I watched a documentary on fighter jets or like ejecting out of an airplane. You have to tuck your knees up and like brace yourself because it's an explosion that sends you up out of the cabin. So I'm surprised he didn't break his legs.
Man,
Yeah.
He's very lucky, wasn't he? Yeah.
Very lucky guy.
Lucky boy.
Yeah, jeez. Thank you very much for that, Greg. All right, Nibsy, come on. What's your story this week, mate?
So, guys, the story I found this week is in a groundbreaking vote for sustainability, the EU moves to approve insects for human consumption.
Boom.
Nice.
I do know that many indigenous communities around the world and a lot of Asian countries, Middle Eastern countries, they already have delicacies that are insects. So I know that in the Lebanese culture, they boil snails and they eat them as a delicacy. But I just thought it was. I mean, you remember eating worms as a kid, and you're like, ugh, all right,
Do you?
wouldn't do
No,
it now.
Nibs.
You know,
No one
Wait,
ate
whoa,
worms as a kid.
No one
Whoa,
ever
whoa,
ate
Nibs.
a worm when they were a
Whoa.
kid.
Wait, what do you mean? You
No,
remember
I did
eating
not-
worms?
I did not look at that and stick that in my mouth.
This
Hang
is
on.
Nibs, so
Says
this
the
is a
guy who bites
classic.
into ice cream. Stop passing judgment, asshole.
So basically, can we just clarify everything for the viewers who have not listened to the previous 3 episodes? This is essentially a delving into the mysteries of Nibs. All right. So firstly, he bites ice creams. Oh no, who bites ice creams? You
No,
bite ice creams.
that
so
wasn't
you go-
me, it was
Oh
Greg.
yeah, sorry. All right. Secondly, Nibs is terrified of open waters. All right.
That
And
was
now
odd, but okay,
we
fair
find
enough.
out he eats worms. All right. Something happened to you as a child. We want to know what.
I was left unattended in the garden for too long at a young age, and whatever happened. The rest is history.
You say this, Nibs. It's funny you say about there being delicacies. I remember when I was younger watching The Lion King. You know that scene where like Simba meets up with Timon and Pumbaa, and they're introducing him to like eating bugs.
Yeah.
Those bugs do look delicious. They're all like. It's a colourful spread, like a fruit salad of insects like in front of him. And he gets that one which is like particularly juicy. And you're like, you know what? I could go for bugs right now. That's what I thought when I was younger. But I didn't then march out to that garden and eat any worms, unlike Nibs. But
Well, guys, you know what? You got to live your life a little bit on the edge. The products that they're thinking about making are products like cricket protein bars, locust aperitif, or mealworm burgers. And they don't sound that bad. You guys are gonna have to try them. We're all gonna have to try them.
All right. So, has anyone seen Shark Tank here? Shark Tank. It's like American Dragon's Den. You
Yes.
have one in Oz.
Yeah, I
you
have.
have one in
I
Oz
have,
as well,
yeah.
Nibs. It's the most brilliant program
Yes.
ever. But they had a cricket protein bar, and apparently when you grind all the crickets up, you actually get a serious amount of protein from them, and it's actually really good.
It's huge.
well, I'm not surprised. Who's surprised by that?
Me, I
You're
was quite
literally
surprised.
grinding up
Who
you're-
thought that you could just
you're
grind
grinding
up
a living
loads of
thing
cricket?
into just, yes.
I mean, you would have thought it'd be like 0.0001 anyway. And you know what these bodybuilders
No,
are like?
there's
They like to
tons of
eat like
protein.
100 kilograms of protein a day. So, I mean, it's like,
There's
I don't
tons
know.
of-
I was
there's
quite
tons of
surprised you
protein
could get
there,
that
yeah.
much. All right, well, there you go. It
No,
was news
I
to
get
me
it,
anyway.
like-
And it's news to some of the listeners, so it's all right.
Bugs
We
breed a
entered-
lot on their high protein, so it's a good idea for the future, especially when we're just eating everything in sight for and continuing to do that. I think the problem is obviously we just got to treat the bugs nicely, not like the Wuhan bats, because we don't want them to give us more viruses.
So, seeing as we like to ask the questions that really matter here, if you only had to eat one insect, what would it be?
Do you guys want to know what the most commonly eaten insect is?
Nibs,
you
are you
tell
even
me.
listening to the question?
No, he is.
No, I
It's
wasn't.
relevant.
I wouldn't eat an insect if I had the choice, and I always have the choice. So I'm not going to convert to eating insect products. But the most commonly eaten insect is beetles,
Okay.
Oh, nice.
according to
I mean,
National
that makes
Geographic.
sense.
I
Alright,
think
nice.
that surely Nibs' choice would be worms because he's already eaten them anyway, so it's not exactly.
It'd probably be snails, actually. To be
Oh,
fair,
I like
okay.
snails.
definitely boiled little snails rolled in salt.
Oh,
I
that
love
sounds
escargot.
vile.
That does not look appetizing at all.
Are they even insects? Are they even considered insects, or are they like mollusks or something?
Well, see, I was thinking that it's not really it's not an insect, is it? Technically, I don't
I
think.
think
No.
insects have to have like
What,
six
an
legs,
exoskeleton or something?
And well, they got antennas, haven't they? Oh yeah, you're right, Nibs. Actually,
They're just a bit shit, really, aren't
Exoskeletons.
they? Snails. They're just a bit of a shit thing.
I mean, I know we seem
about.
to have gone into
They're
this.
just
like,
too slow.
I think we've gone into this whole, like, over the last few weeks, we felt like the Discovery Channel sometimes, but I think, boys, this is where we reach our limit on understanding of, like, basic animal things. And I think we should probably stop there before we start spreading misinformation ourselves, because we are merely hypothesizing. I can see the look. I can see the look on all your faces. It's like, does giraffe have 4 legs? Or, you know. So I think we should probably stop there now, all right?
I was going to say, I think cricket would be my go-to. For some reason, that just springs out to me, like cricket or like, I mean, those locusts. I've seen some locusts on David Attenborough, and they are terrifying. Those eyes are flipping something else.
Would you eat a spider?
A bit too furry for my life.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, here's another question for you. Would you eat a kiwi fruit with the skin on?
Oh,
No,
yeah,
who
my
does
mate
that,
who's a
Nibs?
Kiwi does this. My mate who's a Kiwi does
Really?
this. And I'm like,
I
it's
do it
just
as well.
weird.
I bite the ends and then I eat the whole thing like an apple, just the whole thing gone.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Whoa.
From worms to
Now-
kiwi fruits and all the fun in between.
I mean, we are learning more and more about nibs.
I know.
For each
true.
passing minute.
Yeah, I know.
This
this podcast should be retitled "The Discovery of Nibal Abimola."
Who the fuck is that guy?
All right, boys, we'll move on.
You did
all
not say my name properly at all.
I know I did. I completely messed up your name. All right, I've got quite a very short little funny story. All right, guys. Obviously, right now, everyone is really struggling working at home, and it's a little bit of joy. Now, we obviously have made reference to people sitting with no underwear and all of this. Now, the thing that kind of like, you know, made me think was, well, what are these artists doing while they're working from home? Most of them have studios, but then you think, well, hang on a minute, what about the graffiti artists? So it turns out that Banksey is continuing to work from home. And he's posted this very amusing picture on Instagram, which is captioned, "My wife hates it when I work from home." And he's essentially graffitied rats all over the bathroom. Of course, the link will be below, but it's very amusing to just think, because he's obviously just done his stencils and he's just graffitied all these rats, having a little war in his bathroom, which is very cool. So that's
Do we
definitely.
know who he is yet?
No one knows who he is. Presumably, his wife knows who he is now, at least. But yeah,
Now, at least.
Do you think he met her on RuneScape?
maybe.
Identity hidden.
Yeah, that was if we searched Banksey on.
Or his name on RuneScape was Banksey 123.
Yeah, no, it was not
No.
Banksey 123.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there are theories out there, aren't there, about who he is, but no one really knows still. He's elusive to this day.
yeah. So look, this week, we don't have a "Have I Got Fake News for You?" because I thought we would just take a little look back. No, we're still going to play a little game, all right, which is related to the game.
Okay.
I thought we'd take a little bit look back at some of the things that we've talked about over the last month. Some serious, some not so serious. So the first one I thought we'd have a look at is actually the top selling product in Walmart has now changed. All right, and I want you guys to guess which the new top selling product is. And you can, this is like your little game now, okay? It's like the "Have I Got Fake News for You?" but you can take a guess. And you've got to have reasoning as well.
Top product in Walmart.
Alright.
Okay.
So I figure it'll be something probably like hobby related, or like, you know, we've reached like, especially now that around the world it seems to be we're getting to the point where like the sort of lockdown time is being like extended and whatever. So now people are sort of think of it like a midlife kind of crisis. Something needs to happen. So like people are going to go and like buy ear piercings or like
Ooh, close.
hair dye or something. Like, they're gonna, yeah. Like,
Nibsy, what do you think?
I think maybe like puzzles.
Ooh, not bad.
No, people
board
aren't that
games.
intelligent, Nibsy. Especially not
A
Americans.
puzzle's not hard.
video game consoles of like
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
selling
Video.
all
I mean,
over
look at me. I'm playing RuneScape. I mean, God, I never thought I'd see the day when I played that game again.
Yeah, true.
I think for
Go
my
on, Lawrence.
guess, I was gonna say the Kama Sutra book, because obviously everyone's at home, everyone's rounding like animals. It's that or a dildo, right? And I think Walmart I don't know, Kama Sutra or dildo. Having said that, the way you reacted, I'm just saying it's got to be hair dye probably or something like that, is it?
Yeah, so, alright, so hair dye, Greg, you've smashed it again. Yeah, so basically,
Boom.
it seems like everyone has gone through the same mass buying cycle. Now, I brought this up because obviously we looked back and I made a kind of a remark very early on, I think episode 2 maybe, about the lack of certain products in Tesco and how I was very excited to find certain alcohols. Now, everyone seems to have gone along the same path, and we sort of started out with toilet roll, which for some random reason on episode 1, we looked at why everyone was buying toilet roll. And then obviously everyone started buying up food and booze and things like that. Then we obviously had a look at how, I think on last week's episode, we looked at how there was more tops selling than bottoms. It turns out this week, it is hair products. It's almost like everyone suddenly, and I can't mock them because as everyone knows from last week, I did indeed shave my hair, although I did it very low maintenance. I didn't dye it any funny colours. But it turns out everybody has gone out and bought hair products. So everyone's going through the same cycle. And then I suppose my question to you is, what do you think's next week's trend is going to be?
Oh, yeah. There we go. So if we were thinking about it, like think, what in stages in life,
Yeah.
So you get to around that and you go, oh, I'm gonna do something fun with my hair. So next,
Convertible.
it's gonna be yachts. Isn't
Convertibles or yachts.
it? Yeah, yachts or fast cars.
my
Yachts or sports cars.
I'm sticking to my guns. I reckon it's dildos because I saw an article early this week where in New Zealand the sale of sex toys has tripled since quarantine.
Yes,
began.
I saw that as well.
I'm going for dildos. Everyone likes a good dildo. What about you, Nibs? Do you like a dildo?
Nah, I don't. I really don't know. I don't know what people are going to fucking buy next because people have caught me off guard with how stupid they are. Like
Yeah.
toilet paper, hair dye. Who knows? Next it's going to be fucking paper clips or toothpicks or something.
Yeah.
Something completely ridiculous,
Yeah,
and Greg's going to guess it right again.
I know, which is the more annoying thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the most annoying
What
thing.
strikes-
How do you know these things, oh wise one?
It's because he's doing it. It's because Greg went out and bought
Yeah.
toilet roll. He went out and he was walking, and you know how hench he is. He could carry like 7 back.
I think though, is this weird like just fear of missing out, isn't it? Like you say, the whole toilet paper thing. Even the people that weren't sort of you'd classify as like hoarding it, they'd be like, oh, I better get like an extra toilet roll because I hear people are doing it. And then, so that just, imagine if everyone's doing that, of course you run out. So it's like, someone thinks about trying out, dyeing their hair. Someone goes, oh, that sounds like a good idea, I'll do that. Then suddenly this is spread to, oh, I hear that hair stuff's like running out. Maybe I should get some just in case I want to do it in the future. And then all of a sudden it's just...
Yeah.
But then you've got half the people walking around looking like Eminem in 2006 with a blonde top and shaved sides. Next thing you know what? It's going to be MC Hammer Pants. They're going to come in very, very
yes.
soon.
Oh,
I'm
no
excited for that
way.
Hopefully
They
that's the
are.
next thing. Hopefully.
Flares.
I'm keen for full-on
Mankinis,
flares.
they're all going.
Yeah.
Oh, man, King.
I think honestly, I think like little electric vehicles as well, like skateboards and things. I think people are going to take being able to be outside to the extreme. They're all going to buy like little scooters and bikes, and it's just, the thing is, no one's going to go back into a pub really. I mean, the trade, it's going to take ages for the trade to pick up. And I think people are just going to bask out in this. They could even buy tents, who knows, and camp out in Hyde Park because they're just so excited to be out of their flats in London. But yeah, so look, anyway, I want to just, while we were looking back a little bit, I wanted to just have a look at a couple of stories that we debuted on our show that we maybe hit slightly before mainstream media, or if we didn't hit it before mainstream media, it got so buried by the intense coverage that we've experienced in these times of just single, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 different topics. So, one of them Lawrence brought up in episode 1, which was a slightly more on a serious note, and we just wanted to update you, was the domestic abuse thing. And this, really no one at that time in the media was talking about it too much. And Lawrence, did some research and brought up a brilliant article. And interestingly now, Refuge, a charity that obviously handles these kind of things, and deals with cases and provides a helpline for domestic abuse victims, has reported a 700% increase in calls over the last 4 weeks. And they reckon there's kind of, obviously statistics a little bit hard to come by, but they reckon also domestic abuse killings have more than doubled. So I just want to give a big round of applause to Lawrence for kind of picking up that, you know, for highlighting something in a time that will be so tough for those people. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously we're moving on to a slightly sadder note, but I just don't know if anyone had any thoughts on that. Lawrence, if you wanted to pick that back up again.
Yeah, I think it just goes. It's one of those things when you get anyone or you get any type of people and sort of stick them into a can so they can't really move much and they're stuck in a small house, then like people who otherwise would be absolutely lovely and ordinary people can become, you know, crazed anyway. So that's why I think at the time I thought, well, hold up a second, what about the people we know are literally crazed or are violent in the first place? And obviously it's just only going to get worse, and seemingly that's what's happened.
Absolutely.
I guess
it's
shock.
essentially a bunny boiler kind of a pot, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a shame, but if it obviously, all we can do is just hope that the quarantine ends and hope that these charities can keep helping with people, really. And the police are still doing their job at the end of the day, so hopefully things will reduce as appropriate.
I do have a story from a friend of mine that I work with. He was actually explaining, fortunately, this has no violence about it whatsoever, but it does kind of go to show how the lockdowns and the isolation can affect relationships or couples or domestic partners. So his younger brother is a extremely athletic guy. He manages like a communications store. He's the youngest captain of the football club that he plays at. And since he's been obviously working from home and then he hasn't been allowed to train in football and he can't really exercise more than once a day, it's put an extreme amount of tension on him and his partner. And they're obviously finding it they're finding it hard, and there's a lot of friction there. And he was actually explaining to me that he doesn't think that the relationship's going to last as long. Fortunately, there is no story of violence whatsoever, but it just goes to show that all these measures that have been put in can affect people in so many different ways, especially when you've got your livelihood taken away from you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it can change people a lot.
So yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch on one more that we looked at, and that was I wrote an article recently on Medium about COVID-19 is going to affect people in the long term, and I think something that's not been highlighted enough in the media is where big corporations are actually going to really heavily benefit and profit from COVID-19. For instance, there's an article on Vox which I found really interesting. It's very well written about how Amazon has obviously, it's almost like Amazon's become the Red Cross in these situations, you know. Literally, that's what a lot of people are comparing them to. And of course, if you look at their stock price has gone up by 20% over the last couple of months. And I think it's a brilliant read, and it's obviously something we've kind of talked about more off air. Anyway, we must go to a break. So if you've got any feedback, comments, questions, you can always email them in to us at podcast@tw3media.co.uk, and we are on the Twit box at TW3Media. We will be right back with John McAfee. Lawrence likes an intro, so Lawrence Ray, King of Brazil, media extraordinaire, will be back right after this.
Yes, that's more respect. That's what I needed.
We are back, and we are back with Lawrence Ray, who is going to take you through the part 3 now, I think, in John McAfee's life saga. So, Lawrence, without further ado, please take it away.
Absolutely, Dom. So where we left off, John McAfee had met a botanist and started a company called coranavirus to try and essentially fight diseases. So it's all quite nice, right? You know, he'd done yoga and he'd done lots of things that he thought were beneficial to the world. So he bought this land, built a house, loads of huts and all these things, and then he essentially started getting involved with a lot of gangs and guns and prostitutes and gangsters and just lots of things you shouldn't be doing. And this is when he got into bath salts, MDVP, which essentially he was, by the sounds of it, allegedly, I have to say, was injecting into his penis at certain points. And he basically was posting on blogs and called it super perv powder. He wrote that he was manufacturing MDPV himself and took pictures of the process, posted them onto the forum, and wrote that his experiments resulted in side effects like extreme paranoia. And he also wrote that he blinded himself for 3 hours, didn't sleep for 4 days, and that essentially it made him wildly paranoid and insatiably horny. Now, the last part of this small section of his life, he essentially then got together like a harem of women that lived with him. And he wrote on his blog, because obviously you can imagine, right, that a harem of women sounds like a good time. You've got a different one each night sort of thing. No one's going to... But he did say that essentially discord was quite common with them, and each woman had tried to kill him more than once. So you've got Betsy. He met Betsy after one of his dogs had eaten her chicken. Sorry, it's just... Anyway, so yes, that happened. And so she moved in after that, and then she threatened to slash his throat multiple times with a knife. Amber won, because there was obviously more than one Amber, pulled a knife on Betsy and tried to kill her, and alternated between love and hate for Tiffany. Marley burst into his room with a gun while he was sleeping and threatened to shoot him. He was sleeping with Anna at the time. And she also slapped Jane's face with the gun more times than he could count. But lastly, the youngest member was 17 years old, and she was called Amy. And she actually broke into his room and tried to shoot him whilst he slept. She missed and just went past his ear, but ended up bursting his eardrum. So yeah, that's where I'm going to leave you off today, guys, is with that lovely image of a harem of women surrounding Mr. McAfee in his Belizean estate with gangsters and armed security.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Lawrence.
No worries.
So, Greg, we've got another story from you this week, I believe.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's so let me take.
Don't sound too
to
enthusiastic,
Nairobi,
Greg.
in Kenya.
Yeah.
You know me, Dom. This is just my resting voice.
It is, yeah. Go on then.
So Nairobi, Kenya. Mike Sonko, the current governor of Kenya, has been sending out care packages to the capital city, and residents can expect the usual food staples, with one bonus inclusion actually that's put him under fire this week. Small bottles, by the way, so yes, plural, of Hennessy. The governor has justified the inclusion of the alcohol as, I quote, throat sanitizer, and has claimed that studies have shown that alcohol plays a major role in killing the coronavirus. This is, of course, absolute horseshit. The World Health Organization has stated the exact opposite of this. People should probably minimise their consumption, as it lowers your immune system, makes you more susceptible. So to Mike Sonko, I do say, Hennessy you later.
Hey.
And there you have it.
Whoop, whoop.
A new game on TW3 Media has just been formed. That is the pun of the week. So we look forward to whoever's coming up with one next week. All right, thanks for that, Greg. Sounds very good.
Bring it, boys. You're welcome.
So, guys, look, it's been a long time, okay, that we have given out a TW3 award. Now, given it is our month in, all right, and we have spent 4 weeks analysing, mocking those people that deserve it. We've been tackling the fake news. We've been doing all that good stuff. I think it is time that we do give out a TW3 awards. So, if I could get a drum roll, please. This month's TW3 award goes to Donald Trump. There's a surprise. So, the reason why. So, I mean,
What's he done this time?
So, look, I mean, I don't have enough time, Nibs, to tell you what he's done this time. There's a lot that's gone on over the last month. Now, I know it's a very cliche, easy cop-out for a TW3 award, but never has someone deserved a TW3 award more than the Donny. So, I mean, we've highlighted quite a lot over the last 4 weeks, but there is a particular favourite of mine at the moment. Now, there's a very good article by Politico that's gone through 15 times that Trump has praised China. Okay, now, I don't know if anyone's been following, but Trump came out and he's essentially left the WHO and he's refusing to pay them any more money which is very dangerous, especially it's just incredibly dangerous in the middle of a global pandemic. It's a very, very strange move to do. And he essentially said that China has, it's very China-centric was his exact term, the WHO was. But the thing is maybe he has political reasons to pull out of the WHO. Maybe he's doing the right thing. The thing that got me was, well, he said that China is not being transparent. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm sure Trump must have praised China and said they're being very transparent. So I had a look back. January the 24th, Twitter. China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. He literally goes on and he just contradicts himself. I just spoke to President Xi last night and, we're working on the problem, the virus. It's a very tough situation, but I think he's going to handle it. I think he's handled it really well. So, yeah, the TW3 Award obviously has quite a wide criteria for entrance, but there is no wider criteria than the man that is Donny, and that is why this month, Donald Trump is getting the TW3 Award. Give him a round of applause, boys.
Woo, Donny!
We will post it to him. I'm not sure if it will get there or not, but we will try nonetheless. So, that was the TW3 Award. We are going to go to a quick break. And then when we come back, we will be looking at some good news as well as one more story. We will be right back after this. Welcome back, guys. So we have Lawrence is going to bring up a story. What have you got going, Lawrence?
My story is very family friendly. There was something I saw on Twitter yesterday, and then I saw it also on the Mirror, which is again a very reputable news site. I really do appreciate their factual reporting in this time. So essentially, a woman bought a sex toy on eBay, but didn't realise she was logged on to her mum's account. So she got a text. She got some text from her mum, literally the next day. I think it was the same day, actually. I'm just going to see if I can find the specific texts so I can read them out to you, because they're quite good, actually. She gets rinsed by her mum, basically. Where is it? Let's see. Oh, it seems like the Mirror, who I'm looking on now, have actually blocked it out. But essentially, the mum said something like, basically rinsed her out. Here we are. What's this? Are you lonely? Perhaps you need your own eBay. And then, obviously, the girl was obviously pretty upset about it. And then basically the mum alluded to the fact that she might want the dildo herself, so it was quite an interesting discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Lawrence. Greg, you've got one final story and then we must get on, okay?
Yeah, just another quick one that has come out this week, that Chile has been counting those that have died of coronavirus as recovered, because they're of course no longer contagious, says the health minister. We have 898 patients who are no longer contagious, who are not a source of contagion for others, and we include them as recovered. These are the people who have completed 14 days of diagnosis or unfortunately have passed away.
Good
God. This is obviously kind of worrying news, and it's not clear yet how long Chile have been doing this for. So it's getting some slightly skewed figures from some parts of the world, it seems, in terms of who is recovering. How sort of dangerous coronavirus.
There's a lot of hearsay about the real figures that China has released and what is actually happening there. So that a lot of people are like, they're misleading with how many cases they've confirmed dead, like recovered, in isolation, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, being a communist country, they don't have to release that kind of information.
Well, yeah,
similar in the UK though. You say over here, like...
Yeah, I think we haven't actually knocked the UK politicians enough, and I think we do need to highlight that there are some serious shortcomings in certain aspects. But yeah, you are absolutely right with China, and this was obviously part of why Donald Trump got the TW3 Award, because he was kind of praising their transparency on the one hand, and then 3 weeks later he's suddenly realised that actually Chinese figures are probably not all what they were cracked up to be. And as someone very quaintly put it, I thought, they said a broken clock is right twice a day. So I thought that pretty much summed up China's figures, if I'm honest.
Wow.
So I thought
That's
that was,
perfect.
yeah, that was pretty good. Thank you very much for that, Greg. I did not know that. That's very interesting. I hope that doesn't have any knock-on effects. Right, so we are going to draw to a close this week. We have Nibsy, the man who can wrestle 4 kangaroos at a time. He can drink a pint in 5 seconds, and he is exemplary in every aspect of his life. Nibsy, you have 60 seconds on the clock. Are you ready?
I am ready. Hit me.
Then you better start this good news quicker than you've ever kicked an Aussie football. Go!
The Lego factory is now producing thousands of protective plastic face masks for medical workers.
Nice, good on Lego.
A 99-year-old World War II veteran has raised $3.3 million for hospital workers simply by walking laps of his garden.
Yes,
Da-da-da.
come on. What a legend.
Exciting data from last year. It said that renewable energy has accounted for almost 3/4 of new energy capacity in 2019.
Brilliant.
Some teens in America have launched a hotline for isolated seniors to listen to pre-recorded jokes, stories, and messages of hope.
Fantastic news.
On the 1-year anniversary of the fire of the Notre Dame Cathedral, the bells have rang out in support of healthcare workers. And over to you guys in Britain, a study has found that most British women have become more comfortable with their natural looks while in lockdown.
That's
Yay.
really good news. I was thinking about
That's
this.
very
That's
good.
really good. Brilliant.
And on the finishing note, so from yesterday, 50 years ago, Apollo 13 landed safely back on Earth after 4 days of fighting up in space to come down to safety. So
Brilliant.
NASA is celebrating, and so is the world.
I don't know if anyone picked... That's brilliant news. Thank you, Nibsy. I don't know if anyone picked up, but Donald Trump did actually sign an executive order to allow America to mine minerals on the moon. That was actually one of my stories this week, but we never really got to it. So that's a little bit of food for thought. Anyway, we are going to, as if you have not had enough Donald Trump quotes this week, you've had quite a few, and I promise we'll tame it, we'll rein it back in for next week. But we do always finish on a Donald Trump quote of the week before we sign off. And Lawrence, take it away.
Okay, so Donald Trump quote of the week this week. As to clarify, they're not always current ones, but they're good ones. So it is. Sorry, losers and haters, but my IQ is one of the highest, and you all know it. Please don't feel so stupid or insecure. It's not your fault. Donald Trump.
Thank you, Donny. We salute you.
Well
The
done.
father of fake news, who is probably spreading more misinformation than anyone right now. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. Greg in London, thanks you. Lawrence, Nibs, you've been absolutely wonderful. That was the week that was. That was your weekly review of the news, where we've talked about everything and anything. If you have anything that you would like to feedback, talk to us, or just because you're bored, frustrated, and and you're talking to the wall and you've got no one else to talk to, please do email podcast@tw3media.co.uk or tweetbox us at TW3Media. You've been sensational. Have a great week. We will see you next time. Take care, guys. Goodbye.
Woo! Bye bye. Oh, remember, kids, stay inside and keep masturbating.
Oh, Lawrence, stop. I mean, man, I know your girlfriend's the other side of the world, but Jesus Christ, does everything have to be sexual? Like, I know it's been a while since you've had anything, anything in bed, but holy, just anything, yeah. Everything, yeah, Jesus.